Ľudovít Klein takes on Mateusz Gamrot this Saturday as the co-main event of UFC Fight Night back in the Apex. And this is a really good fight for a fight night. You know, Mateusz Gamrot, he's ranked number 7 in the lightweight 155-pound rankings, and Ľudovít Klein isn't even ranked. So kind of a curious matchup, but I like it because, you know, Mateusz Gamrot, no surprise what he's going to be doing. Going to be looking to get it to the ground as soon as he can. And Ľudovít Klein going to be looking to defend takedowns and beat him up on the feet. We've seen him do that with a lot of success in his last few fights, particularly the one against Thiago Moises. So curious to see if he can, you know, keep up that takedown defense, which I think is at about 91%, and kind of exploit the striking game of Mateusz Gamrot. But Ľudovít Klein, 30 years old, in his prime, 5'7", with a 72.5-inch reach. So he's going to be 4 years younger than Mateusz Gamrot. He's going to be 3 inches shorter, but he's going to have a 2.5-inch reach advantage, which I think is going to be substantial because he's going to be looking to keep this on the feet. He's on kind of a run right now. You could say 6-fight unbeaten streak. He had a majority draw against Jai Herbert, which wasn't technically a win, but 6 wins in that time span. His only 2 losses in the UFC were against Michael Trizano back in 2021, and then Nate Landwehr by anaconda choke after that, where he was getting pressured a lot in those fights and didn't respond very well to it. The Michael Trizano fight was very close, but he was pushing forward, pushing a high pace, and Nate Landwehr was being Nate Landwehr and putting a lot of pressure on him, making it a dogfight, tiring him out for the most part. Eventually got the anaconda choke. So I'm curious to see how he will respond to the pressure of Gamrot, who's going to be looking to do that exact same thing against Ľudovít Klein. Ľudovít Klein, primarily a striker. He's a southpaw, has very fast striking, snappy jab, really good high kick. We've seen him use that a lot in the AJ Cunningham fight, the Thiago Moises fight. Moves very well, always on the balls of his feet, just very powerful and athletic, very technical, and can hurt guys. Wobbled Bahamondes in the first round in their fight. Obviously got AJ Cunningham out of there, was landing to the head a lot, but eventually just went to the body to kind of get him out of there. He was a little too tough for his own good, and was hurting Thiago Moises in that fight as well, defending a lot of takedowns. So I think Ľudovít Klein definitely has the ability to get Mateusz Gamrot out of there on the feet if he can keep it standing. So he does have a 91% takedown defense. In that fight with Moises had such good injuries. He had him dead to rights on the hips, and somehow, Ľudovít Klein just has very strong hips, a very good sprawl, and was able to keep it standing in that fight and kind of beat Moises up. And he will shoot his own takedowns as well. Like, he's no slouch on the ground, and I think he's being underestimated in this fight going against Gamrot. Has really good cardio for the most part. Like I said earlier in his career, he has been kind of pushed back and can be made to get tired, but as of late he's looked really good, able to fight a solid 3 rounds. Really good chin as well, never been knocked down in the UFC. He was rocked by Trizano in that fight, but was able to kind of persevere and push through. And I just don't think Gamrot is going to be able to crack him and to hurt him on the feet. I think he's going to be desperately shooting for takedowns in this one. So Mateusz Gamrot, very rudimentary in the striking department, uses it to kind of set up his takedowns to get going on his ground and pound and submission game, and had really good ground and pound against Hooker in their fight in round 1 before he was getting hurt, but just has relentless pressure and shots, kind of like Merab, just constantly shooting takedowns, just kind of a grinder. He will make you question whether you want to be in the fight with him, and really push you to your limits in his fights. But if he can't get the takedowns, he's not winning the fight. He's not winning a purely striking affair against Ľudovít Klein or any of these guys that are in the top 20 of the UFC. So he's known as that grinder, the guy who can push a high pace and get takedowns. But his fight against Dan Hooker, his last fight back in August, Hooker was having a lot of success stuffing takedowns, threatening with front chokes to get out of bad positions to stay on his feet, and kind of landing elbows and ground and pound once he sprawled out Gamrot. And that's something that Ľudovít Klein does very well. If he goes to the ground, He's got very good ground and pound. We saw that against Ignacio Bahamondes in their fight, so I can see him stuffing takedowns, landing elbows the same way that Dan Hooker did. Granted, Dan Hooker's 6'6'1", so those tall guys can be hard to to take down. They're hard to tip over. They've always got something kind of posted on the ground, but Hooker was able to kind of march forward and put a lot of pressure on Gamrot, so he couldn't set up his takedowns in that one. So Gamrot has struggled in the past against guys who can defend the takedowns. Obviously, Beneil Dariush, he got a win over Arman Tsarukyan, but he was doing a pretty fair job at defending the takedowns as well. RDA had his moments, but he's been shown that he can be beat if you can defend the takedowns. Let's just say that. And I put Ľudovít Klein up there in the ranks of Dan Hooker, Beneil Dariush, and Guram Kutateladze, which in hindsight isn't the best loss back in 2020. So, but I'm gonna go with the dog in this one. I'm gonna go with the underdog in Ľudovít Klein. I think Ľudovít Klein is very underrated. I think he's just entering his prime. Like I've said, we've seen him struggle earlier in his career against guys with similar styles, but look at his, he beat Devontae Smith after that 2-fight loss streak, who's very good. Beats Mason Jones, who I think is a potential top contender at 155 pounds based off of his last, just his experience, his performances in the UFC before he left to go to Cage Warriors. His performances in Cage Warriors and then his recent fight against Jeremy Stephens, I think that dude is very good. Jai Herbert, another very good striker, went to a majority draw decision with him, but then he beats Ignacio Bahamondes, AJ Cunningham on short notice, finished the guy, which is good. I hate when guys get kind of layup fights on short notice and they struggle through it. David Onama versus what's his name, Roberto Romero comes to mind. But put him away in the first round, Thiago Moises, always a dangerous guy, only loses to very good competition, just lost to Jared Gordon. Before that, he's losing to Islam Makhachev, Joel Alvarez, very good competition is really the only people that he's losing to. And then Roosevelt Roberts, I don't know why they matched him up with that. I feel like he's levels above Roosevelt Roberts, but showed that in that fight. So going into this fight with tons of momentum, like I said, 6-fight unbeaten streak, 4-fight winning streak. I think he can defend the takedowns and expose Mateusz on the feet. I think he's the better athlete. I think he's more well-rounded. He has the better chin. Definitely has the better stand-up, obviously. And I think he's going to be able to defend the takedowns and land more damage on Mateusz, who I think is chinny. The dude is chinny. The stats don't show it, but he was dropped by Dan Hooker in the first round. He was dropped by RDA. He was dropped by Jalen Turner. He was dropped by Beneil Dariush. He was dropped by Arman Tsarukyan. Dropped by Guram Kutateladze. I think that Ľudovít Klein can drop him and finish him. He's a finisher. I think he can hurt him on the feet and finish him with ground and pound when it goes to the ground. And I just see him moving very well on the outside, landing the better shots, not allowing Mateusz to corner him or to really get into any type of rhythm to get good takedowns going. I think he's going to be landing a lot of damage, making Mateusz shoot bad shots, in which he'll be able to defend. The takedowns that he was defending against Thiago Moises, which were picture perfect entry timing takedowns, and he was able to just shuck them off. It was just absolutely crazy. And, I know that he's only going to be getting better. He's only 30 years old. Been fighting since 2014. Dude's been fighting since he was 20 years old. I think he's going to be making drastic improvements, whereas Mateusz Gamrot, that baby's already born. We know he's going to come in and he's going to shoot for takedowns. His life depends on it, because it does. And I think Ľudovít Klein will be able to spin this entire camp defending takedowns, circling off the cage, and I think he'll probably put more forward pressure on Mateusz Gamrot than he normally does. He's kind of one of those guys, he'll allow himself to be pushed back, but I think he's going to be putting a lot of volume out there, high kicks, body shots, throwing a lot of body shots, uppercuts, just to give him those natural underhooks if Mateusz shoots. And I think he's going to be prepared for a guy in Gamrot who is only going to be shooting. He doesn't really have to worry about his striking on the feet. And I think he gets Mateusz out of there by KO or TKO. Thanks.